Welcome to Aging Gayfully. I'm Josh.
Yeah, you're Josh every week. Don't you have like a nom de plume that you could be like? I don't know. What do you think? With-
Okay, let's try this again then. Welcome to
yeah,
Aging Gayfully. I'm the Golden Eagle.
I'm the golden eagle. I kind of like that. I think there's a college that has golden eagle as their mascot.
Oh, I would not doubt that.
Wouldn't it be the bald golden eagle though?
Listen, come on now. This
Well,
is this is one cue ball calling another cue ball bald.
that's right. Well, bald is beautiful.
It is, and I
It,
love it.
and I'm getting some tan because I'm walking. I'm down 30 pounds, and because I'm aging gayfully. What about you?
I am as well, and also we can talk about that sun a little bit. You're hanging out in South Florida too. Why were
I'm
you in
hanging
South
out in
Florida
South
this
Florida.
week?
Goodness gracious, St. Ignatius. I've jumped to an acting career here at the ripe old age of 68. It's been fun. I've had two roles in some films at the University of Miami, and just auditioned for another one yesterday. And it's kind of like stepping into your comfort zone. Never, like my sign says, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Well, I love that. Now, are you finding that you're getting typecast?
Well, yeah, because I've got the look. At least that's what they tell me. I mean, my goodness, my sisters would say, "Hey, watch your ego at the door." But no, there's opportunities for old dudes, and it's been great. It's been a great experience watching these graduate students at the U of M, University of Miami, work on their thesis projects, which they're both writing and producing the films. And I'm playing these small bits, small parts that call for older, uh, nice looking. I mean, I'm
Of course.
bald, so I'm going for it. It's fun.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited to get into our topic today. We're going to be talking a little bit, well, that's not true, a lot about marriage equality. Now, we've been doing this show for a while. And if there's one thing we've tried to show every week, it's that getting older doesn't mean fading out. It can be leaning into your comfort zone.
I like that.
Oh, yeah. And what does that mean? We're leaning into joy. We're leading into who our identity is, into the
Right.
love that we can have and we can receive, into the full spectrum of who we are. And so today's episode is personal for both you and I in very different ways, marriage equality. And not
Right.
from a political angle necessarily, because that's not what we do here, but
Right.
it's really about the heart of the thing.
Well, yeah, it's really, everything really should be about love, care, and commitment. That's really what it should be. That's kind of what we're called to be to one another. At
Oh,
least
absolutely.
that's kind of what I have been educated in. So,
Well, I'm hoping that you can give us some of your education and some of your experience.
well, I like your education and experience too.
Well, let me talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm the straight guy in this double act here. I've been married for a while, and for me, marriage has never been about the piece of paper, although that matters legally. But emotionally and spiritually, it's about me being seen by Amanda, by my partner.
Yeah.
And it's about standing up in front of everyone and saying, "This is my person. This is my home. This is my
Mm.
safety." And I got to tell you, I've always kind of taken that for granted that I can do that.
Now that's an interesting line. Taking that for granted. What do you mean by that, Josh?
Well, I never had to wonder, is am I allowed to do this? Is this okay for me to do in other people's eyes?
Yeah.
Now, we've had plenty of other struggles as people in relationships do. I've never had that struggle.
So you never had to worry about walking into a hospital and being asked, well, what is your relationship to this person? after you've filled out all the forms.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Yeah. So what is that? That piece of paper, that license. What does that really? What does that really mean when you signed all that and you got that? What I mean, what did it mean for you?
What did it mean for me? It was symbolic.
Yeah.
It was Amanda and I proclaiming to the world that we now choose each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that meant.
Yeah. It it kind of like um, seals the deal.
Yeah, and it's funny because we were both in our 40s and previously married, and we had considered at one time, well, we maybe we can just live together.
Just kind of hang out.
Yeah. But that just didn't feel enough in our
Right.
estimation at the end of the day. There was something about sealing the deal, as you say, something about ratifying our commitment to each other
Mm-hmm.
so that not only we would acknowledge it and recognize it, so that other people would acknowledge it and recognize it as well.
Right.
Well, you didn't have that experience.
No, I didn't, and I I I think for most, if not every LGBT person, especially in the United States, uh, that piece of paper has a little bit more meaning to it. Richard and I used to always talk about, we didn't need that paper to solidify our love. We needed that paper for the legal protection that the rights that are granted upon marriage. And oftentimes when you're, I'll just ask somebody who's you just reveal. Of course, I knew that you'd been through that twice. When you say "I do," until death do us part, all those words that are in the ritual. We don't often. I would think that you wouldn't often think about in the midst of a joyful celebration. What those words mean till death do us part. Actually, how that comes into play when when an illness takes on, because who wants to be thinking about an illness when you're going through a joyful celebration? But those rights upon marriage are often are always transferred upon death and illness, and that is really kind of what at the crux, as well as tax deductions and all those other things that come in with the benefits of being married. But we don't think about those advantages of having that piece of paper that solidifies the legal context of a loving relationship, or or in some people's cases an unloving relationship. So
I just did think of another reason why we thought it was important. There are children involved, and
right.
so I can just have the littlest bit of ability to understand that we as a married couple, we would want to have that legally binding contract for the sake of our children.
For
If
the sake of
something
the
should
children, yeah.
happen to one of us or the other one of us, or even if someone is on vacation or something, and I'm home with the kids, to make sure that I can deal with all the things that I need to deal with. So there is that consideration that we had when we were talking about getting legally married as well.
Well, and that's a whole other component to it that I'm quite frankly unfamiliar with, but I know there's thousands upon thousands of LGBT folks that do have children, um, and that's a whole thought process in and of itself about the ramifications about custody, and but that you come back to that certificate. that license, that pretty much solidifies. And that's kind of on the chopping block these days.
Yeah. Are you familiar with, have you been following some of the things that are going on specifically?
Well, it's just that you follow all the chatter that's going on,
Mhm.
and you see where things are being removed. I'm trying to use the polite word, and this is just another piece on the chopping block that can gay marriage be rescinded? Well, um, sure, it could be. What does that do to folks that and their legal protection? I mean, the stories are have always been there about LGBT couples and being denied access at the time of life transition because they don't have the legal recourse, or you know, families who haven't been connected to their brother or sister for years, all of a sudden, all of a sudden swoop in at the last moment and throw the lifelong partner to the side. Those things continue to happen. It's that legal document that really solidifies that relationship and puts people on par. Because oftentimes the news coverage is more on the negative side of what gay relationships are, not on the positive side, not on the positive sides of couples that have been together 30, 40, 50, even 60 years. And that love is different in some ways. All religious and philosophical components aside, love is love. You fall in love with the person that you become attracted to. And why can't everybody have those legal rights that are granted upon marriage? The tax benefits,
Hmm.
housing. There's ways of getting around not being married if you uh, have your advance directives and you set up your deed and title. But
Hmm.
why would you have to go through all those gymnastics to get something that is rightfully addressed for everybody? And why do people want to take that away? What's the reason for that? Is it hate? I don't know.
I don't have the answer to that one.
Yeah, I don't know. So, and that's why I think it's important to have these conversations, especially in these changing times. I think we're really, when you get right down to it, we have more in common than not. And sure, everybody has peculiarities and differences, but I don't know. I think people want three things in life: they want to give it, and they want to receive it, and that's love, care, and commitment. Sounds kind of corny, but I don't know. Does that license does that license solidify love, care, and commitment? Well, not to the two people involved in the agreement. I mean, they knew that before they signed it. I would imagine you and Amanda knew that before you signed it, or you wouldn't have signed it.
Well, it's interesting that you should put it quite that way, though, because there's also for straight couples, there is not the possible negative consequence from living out loud and from saying, "Hey, we are a married couple." Now, I say that maybe from the in-laws, but I'm talking about from the larger society,
Right.
And so for folks, same-sex folks, to marry and to proclaim that out loud, well, it does seem to me that that is a little bit dangerous for them. Possibly, it can carry consequences.
Well, I think all our actions, carry consequences. But when it comes to matters of the heart, to have a subjective third party attempt to reject your love, care, and commitment for somebody else, then that, I have to beg to differ. It's kind of like, um, what's that old saying, that cliche? Don't judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm.
People looked at Richard and I. It's like, how how did two people like this connect? Well, I mean, we never really were able to answer that question because we just knew that we did. We understood each other's, even though our backgrounds were different, we understood our upbringing, being the youngest of large families, and how that impacted us. And you explore, as any couples do, you explore those, uh, your life and how you fit in together. And it just happens. Isn't that how love just happens? Of course, you have to be, that physical attraction probably starts things off about, why do I want to meet this person? Well, I'm
Mm.
physically attracted to art, but physical attraction wears off after a short period of time if there's no emotional connection to an individual. And I don't know. I would kind of think, I think it's okay for me to ask you this. Wasn't that how it happened with you and Amanda? Or
Oh,
doesn't it?
sure.
Doesn't that how that all happens with relationships?
Well, I can't speak for anyone else, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
my
I mean,
experience.
I don't know. I don't know why I became attracted to a 5'5" bald-headed Jewish man, but I certainly know that after talking with him, and it's like, oh, I want to get to know this person more. And that's where the connection is. But isn't that, I mean, isn't that common with all relationships? I don't know. I've not been in a heterosexual relationship, but I would have to think humans kind of react to the same stimulus,
You said it. Love is love.
even if it's on different sides of the fence. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's right.
I always like that terminology, the different side of the fence. So
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. How long after you first met Richard to the point where you're like, oh, yeah, this is the one? I'm just curious.
it was early on. Yeah, I would say probably within a month or 6 weeks. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like uh, I want to make something out of this. And I remember saying to him, this is going back 20 some odd years now. I remember saying to him, I said, I, I need you in my life.
Hmm.
And I don't, I've had loving and caring relationships before, but not to the extent that was. Not to where I could have openly say that without any hesitation, because you feel it. And I think anybody that falls in love with a person, they feel that. How to I want to spend more time. I want to explore this. I want to look at all the options. And that's no different for anybody that falls in love because we're all
Mhm.
human.
And when you said that, what did he say? How did he receive that?
He's he teared up a little bit as I did, and he
Yeah.
said this. He said, I feel the same way."
Yeah,
And
that's the
that's,
heart,
the
that's the
to
heart of this
be,
issue.
yeah, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I think we have a connection here.
Think so.
I think we have a connection here. So, did we? We came from different backgrounds, different experiences, different religious beliefs. But when you feel it, you know it. And with that, Josh, you don't want you don't want any outside entity impacting your relationship. Sure, obviously, LGBT people have always known that the rules were different for them. So it's kind of like when Richard was starting to get sick, especially the last couple of years of his life, 2012, 13. That's when marriage equality was really in the forefront. And we'd be sitting watching TV and watching the news, and all these stories would pop up about marriage equality and how that was in the forefront, and all the pride celebrations were about that. And Richard would look at me and he would say, what's funny about this is they think this is like a new topic. And I said, I could tell you in the 60s and 70s in New York, when all of our friends would get together for a dinner party, we would all get together on a Saturday night. Sometimes there'd be 10 of us, sometimes there'd be 20, sometimes there'd be couples. But we would always sit around and talk about the need for marriage equality and what it would be like to be protected. She said, so they present this like this is something new, but I'm telling you, we've been talking about this amongst ourselves for as long as I could remember. But he made a very big point. He said, but the difference today is that it's out in the open. We were afraid to talk about it out in the open in the 60s and 70s because we could either lose our jobs or be
Mhm.
singled out. But that didn't stop us from talking about it amongst ourselves. So it really wasn't a new topic to folks in his era. It became prevalent in the conversation in the 2012, 13 when the case was presented. And sure, the legal status of marriage protects people. Take the religion component out of it. The legal status of marriage protects people. Their rights upon marriage, taxes, child. It's all there because who can debate somebody's love, care, and commitment for somebody else? And we seem to be going back into conversations these days about removing that protection. And I'm only going to speculate myself, but I think a lot of it has to do with religion ideology that is often misplaced.
Yeah, I was looking up some of the challenges that are happening in states,
Mhm.
and what you just said speaks to that ideology. For example, I'm going to just read this. In Idaho, the Idaho House of Representatives passed House Joint Memorial 1, calling for the Supreme Court to, quote, restore the natural definition of marriage, unquote, as between one man and one woman. This was a non-binding resolution that they appealed to the Supreme Court to overturn Obergefell, and natural definition of marriage speaks to that ideology right there. It's plain, it's naked, it's out in the open. That's what's
Yeah.
happening. And I know plenty of hetero couples. I would look at them and I'd say, that ain't no natural marriage. And I've known countless same-sex couples who have been such a shining example of love, care, and commitment, and others who haven't. And, so this is not the basis upon which we judge someone's relationship. We judge it upon
Right.
what we see is happening with the love.
Right. I remember one of the comments that was made after my book was published. And after the story was published, the book was published, all the comments that were going on in the story. And so many that stuck out, but in this conversation this morning, it's like, do you know how many heterosexual couples wish they had the loving relationship that the two of you had? And that, those are the comments that I prefer to have stick with me.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that's the true essence of love, care, and commitment. Are you there for the person, with the person, 100% from the beginning to the end? That's what that piece of paper tells you, but it's what's in your heart that allows you to embrace what those responsibilities are. And it's that piece of paper that allows couples to express in their own way their love, care, and commitment without the worry of any outside involvement. Mm-hmm. And that's what I fear as this conversation, this chatter moves forward about removing this protection. Because I think, such as we're all the same. Mm-hmm. How are we treating each other? It doesn't seem like we're treating each other really well these days.
Well, I will say this, and you said it before. We have to look for it because there are plenty of us who are treating each other well.
Yeah.
That doesn't get attention on the news.
Doesn't get attention. That's what we want to do here with Aging Gayfully.
Yeah.
But
it's happening.
We want you to feel like you have a safe space here to be yourself, to share your love, care, and commitment. Because when we think about the spirit of aging gayfully, well, everybody wants to age gayfully. It doesn't make any difference if you're gay or straight. Everybody wants to age in a society that's loving and caring and peaceful, that you feel safe in. Mm-hmm. Is that Pollyannic? Well, some people might think so, but I think that's kind of the message that we're called to live by. Love one another.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have some homework for our listeners as we close out our episode here.
Homework? Oh my God! You got homework? You're springing that on me. Do I have to do it too?
No, you've just done it.
I just did it.
You just did it as an example. So let me tell you. So listeners out there, wherever you are, and however you love.
Wait, I'm sorry. I have to correct you.
Go ahead.
listeners and viewers, because
And
we're
viewers.
now big time. We're doing video podcasts. I mean, you've polished up the dome, you've got a good shirt on, you've got new light. It's listeners and viewers now. Remember, we're going big time here, Josh.
Yeah, and I'm wearing a shirt. That also
And you're
is a
wearing
step
a
up.
shirt. See, and I got my Aging Gayfully shirt on because I've lost 30 pounds and can fit into it. So
Well,
that's a
there.
whole other story. Yeah.
That was your other homework. Be healthy.
Be
But
healthy.
this is what I have to say. We want to invite you, our dear friends out there who are partaking of our content by whatever means. We want to invite you to think about what it means to have your love honored, not just by laws or by systems, but by your friends and your family and your community, and most importantly, by yourself. And we want to hear your stories.
We
What does
want to
it
hear your
mean for
stories.
you to
Huh.
age gayfully in love? So, how can they tell us their stories, Chris?
Well, you can email your story to us at yesiam at aginggayfully.com. That's yesiam at aginggayfully.com. And to kind of help us out here in the subject line, just put query letters, QUEERYLETTERS, query letters in the subject line, and tell us about your love, care, and commitment.
I cannot wait to read those stories.
And if you want to be a guest, indicate that in the subject as well, or in the content as well, and we'll have you on
Okay.
as a guest. Because again, we're going big time, Josh. We're on video, we're on audio. We get guests. Well, goodness, where could this go?
3D,
3D.
live, in
That's
person.
coming. That's coming up too. That's coming up too. So
Alrighty. Well, until next time, you all out there, our friends, our community, keep living, keep laughing, and keep aging gayfully.
good to be with you, Josh.
See you soon.